my day job is not doing these kinds of things, so I'm going to read off my notes to make sure I say all the things that I want to say and mention all the people I want to mention. So, haere mai, kia ora koutou, and welcome. Thanks for joining us. Ko Matt tōku ingoa. My name's Matt Lane. I'm the digital manager inside Smart Council. In this room, we've got people who have contributed to this project by sharing their perspectives and wisdom. We've got people from across the council whose services are represented on the main website. We've got people who have a vested interest in how our organisation presents itself to the outside world. And we also have a bunch of people who've been working on this project for more than the last 6 months. So you're going to hear from a bunch of people that I'll introduce in a second, but there are a few other people that you won't hear from today that I wanted to specifically shout out to. So Jane Hadaway, our incredible website management team leader, who's been the driving force behind this project since the outset, and our the project manager for the project inside the organisation, Bryony Pukatapu. And as a demonstration of how generous and committed these two people are, the platters that you're eating from were assembled by Bryony, and the beverages that you're drinking were provided from Jane, so that no ratepayer dollars were spent on the alcohol that they were consuming. So today you're going to hear from me, Wellington City Council's Creative and Brands Design Lead, Chris Mitchell. You're also going to get to hear from our fantastic design partners from Wunderman Thompson. So we're lucky to have Jodie Willocks, the managing partner from Wunderman Thompson, as well as Woody Hay, who's the design lead at Wunderman Thompson. And I'm missing a clicker. Thank you. So the main thing, obviously, that you come to see is what the new website looks like, and we will share that. It's worth noting that we're still building the website, so you will see what the website will look like, but the website itself is still being built. We're going to cover how we got here, what we've done, and what the impetus for change was. And then right at the end, we will post a few questions to you to take back to your teams so that you can help us make the launch of the website as good as it can be. Cool, so why did we need to do this, and where is the opportunity? So the current website that we have was designed in 2013. At that time, the Wellington City Council's website. So I was working at a digital agency at the time, making websites for local government organisations. And I can tell you that the Wellington City Council website of 2013 was almost universally considered to be the best website of 2013 for local government. It was fully responsive. It had a higher accessibility rating than any other local government website. It even introduced new novel ways that the menu would behave on mobile, which people outside of local government adopted themselves. But since 2013, not much has changed on the main website from an aesthetic look and feel perspective. And like a garden, weeds have grown across it. More awkwardly, in 2014, the council's brand and style changed, right? So the website that was launched in 2013 represents a brand that doesn't even exist anymore for the organisation. Local government websites are graded by a whole bunch of scores from an organisation called ALGM, the Association of Local Government Information Management. And in 2019, so last year, we were ranked 23rd of 80, which is, 23rd isn't bad, but it's the worst score we've had for the last 6 years. And then finally, as part of the One Stop Shop project, which some of you will be aware of, we kind of discovered through user research that there are a bunch of templates and patterns and styles on the main website that just weren't doing what they're supposed to be doing. So separate to the One Stop Shop project, we said this thing just really isn't doing what it's supposed to do in 2020. People can't understand how to use this little thing and this little thing and this little thing. In addition to that, over the last 5 years, probably longer, there's been an increase in business units developing their own microsites on a range of different platforms for a range of purposes. And as you can expect, those don't have a consistent look and feel. Every time a new one pops up, it looks surprising. And you could say that's delightful, or you could say that's inconsistent and it's confusing for people outside the organization. So yeah, consistent look and feel. So we'd known for a while that the website needed an overhaul of its styles. But we're also super conscious that the website doesn't sit alone in how it represents the organization. Actually, you can see a lot of consistency with the brand look and feel of the organization if you look at physical signage, right? And we needed the same guidance for online properties. So that's why we structured the project, not just to do the main website, but to provide digital design guides for other digital properties that were produced. So in late last year, we went through a procurement process, and we went out to the market, both looking for a set of skills, but also looking for the kind of organization that would partner with some of the very clever people we have inside this organization. We didn't want the website redesign to be done to us. We wanted to be a part of it, to work with the partner that we ended up selecting. So we ended up selecting Wellington, and we are still extremely happy that we went with them. And now I'm going to pass over to Jodie. Here's the clicker.
Thank you. So kia ora, we're Wonderman Thompson, and we are experts at creating outstanding digital experiences. So we started as a little Wellington startup 20 years ago, and ever since then we've been building digital tools, products and platforms for our clients. Our work is deliberate, it's beautifully designed, it's intuitive to use, and it's technologically smart. You'll probably recognise us from our work. Over the last 20 years, we've worked with a range of clients, ranging from government agencies to commercial businesses, NGOs to charities. And some of the work that we have done is with the likes of Whitakers, Capital Kiwi, Wellington Zoo, Garage Project. Obviously, we're huge fans of Wellington organisations. We've also done some really important work with Waka Kotahi around teaching young people how to drive. Mitsubishi, Wellington Zoo, most recently Internet New Zealand, Plunket and various others. And for Wellington City Council, our task was to integrate and work very collaboratively, as Matt said, with the website team to deliver you a world-class new website. And to do that, we had 3 jobs to do. We know, obviously, the wellington.govt.nz website is a really important touch point for locals and visitors alike to get things done and to find out more about our city. But as Matt mentioned, the current site had its limitations. So we joined the team to deliver 3 things. Firstly, to redesign the website. So obviously the look and feel of the website is a massive priority. It's the most visible and important output from this project. But secondly, sitting in behind that, we needed to refine the information architecture. As most of you know, there's a lot of content in there, there's loads of pages, and we needed to create a structure that sat in behind that made the site easy to navigate and easy to use for your users. And finally, to deliver a design system. So basically, we needed to create a design that we could deconstruct into a set of elements and guidelines to empower your team to keep iterating and delivering on your website and digital needs as your organisation evolves, and a system that is future fit so it can evolve with you and as you do. So the outcome of all of this, hopefully, a world-class digital platform for a world-class city council. So why does it matter?
Yes, thanks. I was listening too much and I wasn't. So, as you guys will all be aware, the website is our digital window to the front of the shop, right? Like, it is where our customers and citizens go when they're trying to find out about our organisation. We get more than 3,500 visitors a day. That equates to 1.5 million visitors a year. So why do people come to the website? We've got better at understanding the answer to this question over the last few years. So they come to check whether tomorrow's recycling is glass or plastic. They come to re-register their dog. They come to pay for a parking ticket. They come to apply for a resource consent to build a deck in the backyard. They come to find out who's playing at the Gardens Magic this weekend. They come to make a submission on a public consultation about an EV charging station being added to their street. They come up to find out the opening hours of one of our new libraries in the CBD. They come to find the location of public toilets. They come to book a community centre. They come to report a fallen tree branch. Those are just some of the things they come to us for, right? So the complexity of making all of that complexity simple, it's a big challenge. But the website represents all council services and it belongs to all of us. So correspondingly, it needs to present this wide range of information, services, forms and content, which is diverse and complex, but it needs to feel consistent and coherent. And the goal here is to make the digital property, the main digital property that we have, and in the future other digital properties we have, feel as consistent as our printed material and our signage does. It also, having a digital design system makes future design decisions about digital properties easier, faster. So you get to spend 80% of your time thinking about the 20% of problems, which speeds up decision making. So I'll pass to Chris.
Righto, so we have all sorts of touch points around the city, including the website's one of them, but we've got wayfinding and signage and corporate documents and campaigns that go out, and they all sing from a song sheet, and that song sheet's our visual language. As Matt touched on, the last website design was 2013. 2014, a new brand got introduced to the council, and since then it's evolved and grown as brands do. Council's a unique organisation. It's got multiple business units, and that brand's always growing and adjusting, and so we need to move with it. There's been a design guide developed for the website, and this ensures that digital property is going to be consistent with everything that people see outside and in the environment and all those other touch points. It's built on a brand language that has consistent elements like typeface and colour and tone and typographic style. So what happens on a piece of wayfinding out in Waitohi should be consistent with how we guide people around a website. That consistency is really important. The intent is that style is going to be consistent across all council touch points, so that when people are looking at council assets, services, they know they're dealing with WCC. So it's really important that we get it all in line. That's the end of my piece here. Click. Oh.
So before we share with you the design work, we just want to take you through some of the principles that guided our approach. Ultimately, these will be invisible to the end user, but they may be useful for you just to give you a sense of the types of things we were thinking about and working on in order to get there. As you know, with any team, in order for a team to be successful, we need to have a shared vision and some principles that guide how we work. And we had a very diverse team that involved people from your team, people from ours, and some others actually. So it was really important that we set those things up front. So I'm going to take you through sort of 4 principles or guardrails, if you like, that guided our approach and that were fundamental to the end result that we got to. So there's 4 principles. The first one is this idea of starting purposely. So at the outset of the project, we felt it was really important to start with a very short but focused strategy phase to clearly define what we wanted to achieve from the project. What we did is we co-designed this strategy statement that you see here to make sure that we're consistently focused on creating value both for your organisation and for your users. This end result needs to sit at the sweet spot between those 2 things. So it's doing both what your organisation needs and meeting the expectations of your users. So you can think of this as our ururangi, or our North Star, if you like. It's essentially the core value proposition for the website, and it's something that we kept coming back to time and time again throughout the process to make sure that we weren't forgetting what our shared ambition was. Our second principle, we've described this as reframing responsive, and it's clear that you want Wellington to be a te reo city. So we were very conscious of the important role that the website played in contributing to your work towards becoming a bilingual city. And our ambition at the outset was quite bold. What we were really keen to do was to build off your Te Tau Ihu Te Reo Māori policy to think about what role might the website play in the broader cultural context. So how might we take it beyond language to create something that's truly culturally responsive? Now, this is just a first step in the journey, and this is a quote here from a piece of our user research throughout. But we're really proud of what we've managed to achieve over the course of this project in terms of really bringing Te Reo to life. Did you want to add something to that there, Chris?
Just that since the launch of the Te Tau Ihu policy, the design team is one of the teams thinking about how we can incorporate Te Reo Māori and Te Ao Māori into our work better. Typographically, we've spent a lot of time thinking about that for this project, and we're excited about where it ended up, which we'll see later on. When we think about where it sits hierarchically and how it sits in relation to other type, there's decisions we can make in that typographic landscape that say different things, and that comes in regards to scale, and it's just how we treat these other languages. It's been an incredibly important consideration during the process, and we're proud of where it's at, and yeah, there's definitely more work to do there too. Yeah.
Thank you. So our third consideration was inclusivity, and it was really important to us that the ultimate design of this website considered the needs of all Wellingtonians. So we worked obviously in really close partnership with the website team, and particularly the UX specialists in your team, to get user input and feedback on our design throughout the entire process. And what that meant for us is we could hear firsthand what their pain points and challenges were, and then keep checking back in to make sure that we were addressing those with the design as we went. And we're pretty proud actually of the level of engagement we achieved during the time frame. So we started work on this in January, and over the course of the project we engaged with over 370 participants, and they came from a range of backgrounds in terms of age, gender, ethnicity and levels of impairment. Now obviously that's not every single person in Wellington, but that degree of engagement is really helpful to inform our thinking and to stress test the design as we went along. So our final principle or guardrail, if you like, we thought about was designing ahead. So obviously one of the key outputs from this piece of work is to leave you with a design system that's ownable and that you can use and put to work yourselves. And something that is just going to work today or tomorrow is not going to serve you well. So thinking about how we design in a way that's pragmatic, that's future fit, that's beautiful and compelling on the one hand, but also works hard for you on the other hand, was really important to us. And to that end, the strategy work that we did, the user research that we did, and workshops together with the website team, we came up with 4 principles that informed our design and that you should see brought to life in the design work we're about to share with you. But I'll just hand over to Woody to quickly take you through them before we show you how great it looks.
Hello. I'm the guy that didn't make any notes, so we'll see how this goes. So the design principle is actually really important for us internally. I'll probably say them and you'll be thinking they're kind of irrelevant to me, but when we get into the design, we'll show you how they actually played out. So, directions, not distractions. This is really about people arrive at the website, they want a piece of information and they want to get there quickly. So it just helped us focus the design decisions that we made to help people get to the information that they need as quickly as possible. Tato, tato. So this is really about making sure that we're representing everyone and thinking about people who have impairments. Hey Wellington. So Wellington's a pretty cool place, and we wanted to make sure that the culture and the vibe of Wellington also came across in the website. And calm conventions, boom. This is very much about, if we want it to be accessible, there's no need for us to make a button not look like a button. There's no need for us to have a link that isn't like a link. So it's really about just using the conventions we know about the internet and using them well. And the boom part is about when we need to, we can distract people, draw their eye to pieces of information that we really want to highlight. But we do that really consciously. So, the concept. So just to reiterate on Matt's old point, this is a flat design. It kind of looks slightly clickable to make it feel a little bit more like a website, but it is very much just flat designs, and Jono will help us bring it to life. Thank you, Jono. So we're going to start with a little bit of a time warp. So this was Thank you. So this is pre-2013 website. And if we go to the next one, here is what we currently have. And as Matt pointed out, this is not a bad website. It's just that we could make it a lot better and just reinvigorate it. So we'll start with this one. So this is our new homepage, and I'll just give you a quick summary of, if you think about all those principles I just talked about, they're actually dials you can turn up and down depending on context and content. So something like the homepage actually embodies all of those principles, and we use them as a real guiding light to help us focus our design and make sure we're making the right decisions. Design is a very subjective thing, so it helps to remove a bunch of that subjectivity. But you can see here, we're starting with Tadeo and making sure it's bold. We didn't want to just have an equality between the two. We actually wanted to hero Tadeo. And then we've still got old favorites, things like popular links, having more of a focus on search. So we're giving people a whole bunch of different ways that they can get to the information that makes them the most comfortable. Talking with a bunch of users, some people like to click and explore and navigate, some people like to search and just find exactly what they want, but we wanted to accommodate all of those different paths that people could take. And then you can see here, we've actually, say on this wider desktop view, we can embody the Hey Wellington idea, and this image is just placeholder. I'm sure the brand team had some ideas. It could end up being that.
We've got lots of ideas.
Lots of ideas.
Yeah, we've got lots going on.
But it gives us a chance to really start showing that this is about Wellington, for Wellingtonians, and really getting that Wellington vibe. And just gives the website just a little bit of extra pizzazz. So even little things like this, directions, not distractions. Scrolling is pretty universally accepted as something you do on a website now, but sometimes you find people, and whether they be my mum, she may not know how to scroll. So just little indications like this just feed back into that directions, not distractions.
I'll just point out that we won't go back to the previous site because we're looking at the new Hummer, but the previous one you can't even see the logo on the thing. The council logo sits right down the bottom, so it is in pole position right now. We shout out for the brand team. This is in Guardian. Previously we were in Helvetica Condensed, so there was a completely different typographic family that was on the council website versus all the other assets that we showed you out and about. So Guardian's now consistent across everything that we use. They might seem like small details, but that cohesion and consistency makes a huge difference.
Yeah, and even little things like, we've got a link, let's put a line underneath it. It's not something that you see all the time now. I know we sometimes try and do go a little bit fancy with some of these things, but just make it really clear and really easy for people to understand, and that's the real key. And then if we scroll down, this is a new pattern. So I'll talk a little bit about where we got to with the IA, which is the information architecture. It's what you used to see when you clicked on sitemaps back in the day. But this is a very wide IA. So at the moment, we only have a few things on the current website up the top navigation, but we went really wide. And that's because you're a complex organization, right? You've got a lot of different business units, a lot of information, 5,000, 10,000? How many pages are we?
Somewhere between 5 and 10,000.
Somewhere between 5 and 10,000 pages. So there's a lot of information. So if we actually give it to people up front, they can find a path much easier to what they need to get to. And there's a whole bunch of little things in here. So once again, you see that today we're using the icons. It's something that people will be returning to. Hopefully that icon set, they'll just be able to scroll down, not even read anything. They'll just be like, I want to know about ASB, so I'm gonna find the basketball.
Just we shout out to Isaac Lawton, who's here today, for designing those icons. They were designed in-house, and again, it's a small detail, but there's a way we do things upstairs that makes sure that those assets are cohesive, and it's a big difference between having them designed within the council versus going to stock sites and finding, you know, those icons sitting out there. Sorry, Zach, but there we go.
We keep scrolling down through, also pulling out news. So I'll talk about this a little bit more later on, but news is actually, you know, we looked at the context and the medium of news and really wanted to portray it in its best light. So, you know, we were looking at LA Times and The Guardian and the New York Times, some of the big dogs, so we could borrow some of their patterns and some of their vibes, so we can make sure that whatever pops out of the council in terms of news feels like a big player. And then,
just going to point out there that we introduced the Guardian serif font for the news sections, which helps differentiate it from the rest of the site. So we use the sans elsewhere. We did feel a driver to try and get the serif in there at the beginning, but we all agreed universally that it didn't look very good across the site as a header style. Woody went away, Wonderman Thompson went away and came back with this, and it just worked. It sparked immediately. It's perfect, and it just helps differentiate that offer. So yeah, we're stoked with that.
And Christchurch and Auckland both had their own bespoke news things, and we couldn't leave Wellington. Not
hell no.
So if we scroll down, so this is the final bit, and this is just a kind of big call to action area, and it gives us another chance on the site to actually have a lovely, beautiful, big image that can portray some of that Wellington vibe, portray some of the people that live here, and also have just this lovely on-brand yellow. And then a very, very simple footer. And if you look at all this, I'm not going to get too technical into this, but from a design point of view, accessibility is really important. And one of the main things about accessibility is making sure that the contrast levels are really high. If you have a visual impairment, all of a sudden the internet becomes a really hard place for you to be, because a lot of people aren't thinking about this. And if they are, they don't always do it very well. So hopefully this is self-explanatory, but most of this copy throughout the entire site has a AAA rating, which is about as good as you can get. Yeah, so we were just keeping that in mind in those small details, making sure that, you know, this is black on white. It doesn't get any more contrasting than that. So when people arrive here, they would have been used to the old site, which had inconsistent, slightly small fonts, and all of the feedback we've got from users is actually, this is great. I can actually arrive at your site and I can read things now, which is really important. We're not ostracizing anyone. So, yeah, click on the menu. And if you go into recreation.
This looks like it's a functional thing, but it's just images that have little links.
Right.
So this is an example of when I was talking about those design principles earlier. If you think about them on dials, this is a very, very functional page. This is a page where people should just be able to navigate, scan, and find what they need to find very simply. So this page specifically, turn the Hey Wellington right down. You know, we've still got consistent branding. We've still got that nice big pop of yellow, so it's grounded within the council, but we're not putting images everywhere. We're not using design for design's sake. So something like this, we imagine the best user experience is for people to arrive, spend maybe 5 seconds scanning through the information, and then moving off to what they need to find. If you go to facility and everything else. Okay, so now we reach a subpage. The interesting thing about these subpages is because the design pattern and the design guide that we're creating, if you think about it as a series of Lego blocks. So you could take a hero area Lego block, for example, and you can put that on top of a what's on this page block, and you can just do that all the way down the page. So you can actually, depending on your context and content, turn those principal dials up and down. You know, you can have a really rich galleries and images and videos and rich media all the way down through the page, lots of pull quotes. You can make it feel really editorial. Or if you're on your privacy policy, you probably just want a big screen of text and make that as clear as possible. But you can turn those things up and down. And that's why making a design system is actually really good, because it provides you guys with the flexibility to create the vibe that you need based on the content and the context that you have. So little things as I just go down through here, consistent kind of header area, this nice big exaggerated typography, and then you have even what's on this page. So it's like a content page in a book, for example, and it just gives you an overview of what's on the page. There's no way around it. Some of your pages are going to end up being very, very long. So something like this, people can easily scan through it, and they don't necessarily need to go through the entire page and scroll to find what they're looking for. So we'll just go getting there for now. This is a bad. Oh,
We should go further. Yeah.
okay.
Go further.
So you can easily jump your way down through the page. And if you look at this, it's really just like I was saying about the Lego blocks. It's an image block made up with a content block. And then if you keep going down through, and all of this is just kind of a series of Lego blocks or components that we stack up together. And then even down through here, so Google Map. If we're going to use it, let's use it well, let's make it big, let's kind of make it a feature on the page. We can use these functional elements and we can make them far more beautiful. And even through here, nice big pop of yellow, once again, just to tie off the page.
One thing I want to chuck in here is that from the design team's perspective, there's no surprises here. We've worked with the website team and Wunderman Thompson collaboratively throughout the whole process. Wunderman Thompson's sent through visuals that we've all responded to and put comments up on, and it's been an extremely collaborative process. So from a designer's perspective, that's awesome. Instead of like the unveiling now and everything looks completely like we weren't expecting, it's the opposite of that. So just wanted to acknowledge that.
Thank you. Yeah, go to that page. And if we scroll down, so I'll just show you an example, and I think it's an interesting example if we go to see all the latest news. So the nice thing about the pattern is when you put some sensibilities over the top of it, you can choose where to adjust and deviate ever so slightly when it makes a lot of sense. And news living as its own bespoke channel did make sense. But actually, a lot of this stuff is made up from elements of the original pattern that have either been ever so slightly adjusted, or we've just taken them verbatim from the rest of the pattern. So this page is a good example. But then if we scroll down and go into the lovely that story there, so this is an example of an article page. And if you think back to that facilities page that I showed before, this actually isn't that much different up the top. It's essentially the same block that we've adjusted. We've switched the typography a little bit. We've taken the yellow out. We decided to go for a far cleaner white version, so it harks back to some of those other big players and other printed material. It feels just so much more like news. And then this here, it's just an image block. We've just made it a bunch wider so we can really kind of hero that up the top. But then once we get into this area of the page, it's exactly the same as anything that you saw on that facility page. So the pattern allows someone like the news team to essentially use the building blocks that we've created, all those Lego bricks, and then just a couple of little tweaks here and there, we can give it its own vibe. And it's quite a long article that we used, but all of this stuff in here, it's exactly the same as the other patterns. Keep going. Little things like pull quotes, just switching out the font gives it its own vibe. And things like gallery, it's the exact same gallery you'd find anywhere else across the rest of the site. And yeah, the other thing about this approach and being very accessible is it lent itself to being very clean, very clear, and that also meant that it responded really, really well. So a lot of people are going to arrive here, they're not going to be on their desktop, they're not going to see this huge thing. They're going to see a mobile version. And so I won't spend too long going through the mobile version because it fell into place really effortlessly from our point of view. So here, the one thing that dropped off, because you're on your mobile phone, you might be thinking, it's 8:30, I need to get the rubbish out, what do I put out? So things like the image drop off here, but essentially all the other elements are the same, and they just stack up on top of one another. No, that's all good. Hopefully people get the idea that it's, it responds really well, which is, also thinking about that, designing ahead and future-proofing it, so the patterns that we create, Apple could bring out an iPhone tiny and it'll still work on that. If we go use your arrow keys to go to the right. So for example, one of the hub pages just stacks up. It's the exact same thing. The visual language translates really well across different device types. And this page as well. All of the same elements, just stacked up. The fonts, we've made sure that they're all large, accessible, readable, legible. And we've also got the news, which you can imagine a lot of people will be, on the train, on the bus, and just want to check out what the latest news is. And we've just made sure that all of that is very, very simple and very elegant. Yeah, and that is a small sample of what we've designed, but hopefully enough for you to get a good idea. As we were saying before, it's a very big site with a lot of different Lego blocks that we have to design for, and a lot of different patterns, but that should give you a decent view into what it will be like.
Very quiet. Yeah, spontaneous applause is fine.
Who's got clicker?
Over there.
Oh, I just got that.
So now we've just got a few quotes from the user research that was conducted by the Wunderman Thompson and council teams. The layout and menus seem a lot more logical. It felt like I knew what I was doing. The website design feels clean. It's not busy. Some websites are quite distracting. The news section makes it feel like it's more for Wellington, not just the council dispensing information. Compared with other councils in the region, Wellington City Council always kind of sits differently. Those consistent colours and fonts. I know whenever I see something, that's how I know it comes from them. So where to from here? The reason that this presentation is happening this week is that this is the last week of Wunderman Thompson's part of the project. So their part of the project will be finished at the end of this week. And they're going to be handing us all of the collateral that we need to both build the website, but also have a sustainable design system that we can live with in the future. As you can imagine from everything you've just seen, the implications for the main website of the redesign are quite massive. So the time required to build all of the stuff that we've just looked at, the go live date, that's looking like kind of late September, early October is where the timing from here. And it's being built all in-house by Jane's website team. And they're in the process of doing this at the moment. So go live is approximately late September to early October. And just something to remind all of us that the website belongs to all of us. And as a reminder, the website team are not subject matter experts of any information that comes from your team or business unit. Your team has services that you know more about than the website team do. So how can you help with the relaunch of the website? As you can imagine, it was not possible to go through all 5,000 pages on the website to rewrite them all. It's just not feasible to do that. Over the last 12 months, building consents, resource consents, and alcohol licensing has had all of their content redone as part of One Stop Shop. That's 500 pages of the 5,000, right? So it's a big chunk, but it's still only about 10% of the pages that people are regularly going to. So from here, what's useful for from the website team's perspective is if you go back to your team and business unit, look at the content that represents your team, the services that you provide, first and most brutal question is, does the content need to be there? Because some stuff might be out of date, or it might not be needed anymore. And kind of re-asking yourself, how does this look from the outside world? Who is it for? What are they trying to do? What are the verbs that they come to the website with in their head? And is it written in plain English and from a customer's perspective? So these are all things that we can all collectively do to help make the website relaunch as good as possible. The point as well is, when you give something a beautiful new lick of paint, people will be much more generously inclined to reinterpret their thoughts and feelings about things, right? So as another example, the way the search works is not getting overhauled, but we're making a bunch of tweaks to improve it. And I'm not promising that this will happen, but I think people are going to say, man, the search is working so much better, even though it's only like tweaked up a little bit. But when you make a whole bunch of changes around the edges and some important changes inside, it can really make a big difference. Oops. And then, so thank you, everyone. And I just wanted to read more notes that I have on my phone, so don't miss anything for anyone. Yes, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank everyone who's contributed to this project. So there are people in the room who have participated in stakeholder interviews. Thank you. To those of you who have participated in user research or nudged other people to participate in user research, thank you. To the project board, thank you. To our incredible partners at Wunderman Thompson, Jody, Woody, Jen, and the team, thank you. Woody, I'm sorry I never actually baked you a cake throughout the entire duration of the project. Okay, it's not finished yet. To Sam, Michelle, Seamus, and the comms and engagement team, thank you. Seamus, the direction that you've given us on so many things has been so useful. To Lisa, Chris, and the creative and brand team, thank you. And to Jane and her wonderful website management team, thank you. I'm going to cry, I don't think so. And to our incredible project manager, Bryony, thank you. This project has been a partnership across multiple organizations and across so many teams. And it's just been a real pleasure the whole way through. And thank you to all of you for coming today.
Thank you.
And that's the end. You can eat more cheese or
any questions?
Oh yes, we can do questions as well, comments, thoughts. I've done that clever thing where you don't leave too much time for questions. Any questions, thoughts, comments?
I've got one, Matt, just around the rebuild now. I guess, moving out of, all the different components, like, one of the times we've talked a lot about the Lego blocks. Because you've said you've got, the 500 pages redone from, CCC, but you've got 4,500 not done. When you're converting that content over and you've got, new typesetting, a new space in the website, when you're reformatting all of that, is it manual? Are you basically getting at the shovel?
Well, so technically, it's kind of a technical question, but the answer is simple, which is the way that a website looks is controlled by a thing called CSS. So that says, if it's this thing, make it look like this. If it's this thing, make it look like this. If it's one of these things, make it look like this. So we're changing the CSS, but we're not. So the actual look and feel change, once you pull the lever, it all changes, right? But the actual writing of the CSS, and feel free to jump in and out here, John, but the C in CSS stands for cascading, and by that it means like you've got to do this and then this and then this. So if this, then this, then this, then this, it'll look like this. So if it's a link on here under this thing there, then it'll look like this. Yeah. I'm not a developer though.
Second question on the head. Talk about what's the least viewed page on the website?
Kylie. Nice.
Needy. So you'll be a lot, yeah. But people are very reluctant to let go of their content.
Which is kind of my question. How are you going to communicate with the rest of the organisation around as like culling back and reviewing the content
Yeah, so I don't, the good or the bad news is I don't think that's a new problem, and I don't think that's specific to the redesign project. That problem existed before this project existed, and it will exist, that problem will exist after this project is finished. That's like daily operations of communicating to the outside world, and it's a never-ending battle.
And it's not unique to your organisation either.
Can we spread the word, please?
We often.
So we do plan to release a story on pokapu and things to kind of help raise awareness, and then there will be times where we may start talking to other